So what's killing your deals? What are the things that are under our control and under our influence that we can do differently to stop our deals from dying? In the complex sale, we think the natural progression is for the deal to close. We did all our work. We showed up. We presented. We demoed. We negotiated, and we gave them a great discount. But why is it not closing? The complex sale is called complex because it's complex. And it's not getting any easier, if you haven't noticed. What's going on today is that you have to understand how companies buy, because no one teaches you this. Your manager probably doesn't know. Very few of the managers that I worked for really understood it. It was always like, call the CEO, call the CIO, call the C whatever-o. And yeah, that can help. That'll give you a status maybe. That might prod it a little. It might delay it a little too. You need to really dig into your sales and become a student of the complex sale. We're going to be talking about this today. What is killing the deals? And the list is long. It's complex. It's detailed. And the thing is, we tend to contribute to this. We tend to not prevent this. Most, if not all, are preventable. Most, but not all, are repairable. Sales is not a repair profession. We think about it, okay, here's the problem. How do I fix it? The real question is, how do I prevent it from happening? You'll probably notice that the repairs, it never looks the same after you're done repairing it. You end up having to do a lot more work, make a lot less money, and spend a whole lot more time repairing than you do preventing. But prevention requires a different mindset. It requires you that you do the work before you sell, not after it fails or gets stuck. And too often we just, we give a blanket excuse. I'm selling a commodity. We're the highest price. They didn't like us. My engineer screwed it up. Okay, whatever. All preventable. How do we prevent these things from dying? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get into it, make sure you're checking out our friends over at Co-Video. Video email is one of the ways to connect with another person. Video has just crushed it last couple of years, if you haven't noticed. It's done wonders for my business, and it can do wonders for yours. So step on up. Give it a try. You don't have to do every email with video, but once in a while, it really adds a little touch that is much more personal, much more authentic, and you get to see the other person. Here we go. I'll sum it up at the end. Make sure if you're in the courses already that you're checking out the one-on-ones. It's the very last chapter. And the office hours, they've been really hot. That's the second to the last chapter. They're in chronological order, and I titled them very detailed. So just search for the particular topic that you want more information to hear other people talking about it, not just me. Hey, George, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, George is my name. I'm the founder and CEO of Membrane, which is a sales enablement CRM for B2B specifically. So we're trying to guide people, salespeople and managers in how to become more effective when it comes to complex B2B sales.
And you're also an author, or soon to be published author.
Soon to be, yeah. The first book comes out on Tuesday, so that's exciting, of course. Although the times are not the best, maybe they are. People have a lot of time at their hands, or some at least.
And what was the motivation behind the book?
Well, I've been blogging for a few years now and doing a lot of thinking about sales. And the reason I founded Membrane was of course. Not of course, but it was because of my previous experiences and my lack of successfully building a sales team and all the mistakes I made. So it's just getting the thoughts out there in a book format, because I've been writing about these things for a few years now, but putting it into a book format was exciting, and it's fun to get it out.
And how about the title? I mean, who's killing these deals?
Stop killing deals. Yeah, it's somewhat inspired by the checklist Manifesto, which I know has been going around in the sales space now for a while. But I realized in my previous company that we were doing a lot of simple mistakes that kill deals. So I was blaming the poor performance on the people, uh, the recruiters who found me the wrong salespeople, and the salespeople, and I just had to stop blaming people, and I figured out, of course, I was the big problem, or the root of the problems.
Yeah. So you saw the mistakes were caused by you?
Yeah, so exactly, doing some deep soul searching. That's what I came up with. And but then when I started to look at the delta, so what were the good salespeople doing, and what were the salespeople doing that were not very successful? And I found out that there were pretty simple mistakes, right? We were selling IT automation at the time, and you have to sort of get the tech people on board. But some of the sales guys didn't feel comfortable talking to the tech people, so they skipped it, right? And the tech guys, if you didn't involve them in this, they would just kill the deals for you, right? They would say, well, we don't need these tools, because they were getting afraid that they were going to lose their jobs, basically.
Yeah.
So they told their bosses, like, no, this is completely wasteful. Don't buy this tool. It's moronic. So we taught them to include everyone that needed to be involved in the sales cycle, which it seems like an obvious thing, right? But it wasn't. So that was one example of a simple mistake that killed deals.
Well, I think there's a lot of those things. And that's what I liked about the checklist manifesto, is that, and you talk a lot about neuroscience in the book, is that we feel comfortable that we are smart people and we know all these things.
Yeah.
And then I try and drill it down to something that we've all done. How many times have you taken a business trip and forgot your charger, your belt, your socks?
Yeah.
Something that's simple, right?
Yeah, I agree. Or just go grocery shopping.
You forget something.
And you forget the milk, or you forget something, buy the wrong brand of something, and your wife sends you back, right?
Right. And all of those things can be repaired with a very simple thing.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that we're just mammals. Right?
Yeah, that's true, and also it goes deeper than that, because even if we know how to if we know how to do things, that's the easy fix, right? But sometimes we don't know how to do things, right? You can say, do a really professional exploration call, but what does that really mean?
Yeah.
So if you're onboarding new people and you tell them to do that, they will probably do it as they did it previously in another company, and that might be the totally wrong thing to do. So I think also we need a checklist for me in my head is deeper. It's not just a checklist. It's actually a tool that guides and educates and trains you when you're using it.
Right, because even the best chefs have a recipe book.
Yeah, that's a funny metaphor. I'm a bit skeptical to that, though, because a recipe is so simplistic, right? If you follow the recipe, hopefully, if we're talking baking at least, you'll get a good cake. In selling, it's a bit more complex than that, of course.
But, because selling, I describe as a performance profession, not a knowledge solely profession. If you gave a quiz to salespeople, them getting 100 on it doesn't mean they're a good salesperson.
That's true.
Listen, true, right? Ask questions, true.
Yeah.
Ask open-ended questions, true, right?
Yeah. No, that's true. It's true. There's a lot of depth to selling, for sure. Yeah, and that's what makes it fun, right? And that's what makes the profession so exciting.
Right.
I think.
And I think there's so much going on in it, like in comedy, right? For every great comedian, there's probably 1,000 comedy writers.
Right?
Yeah. What does that tell you? That tells you that writing a joke isn't hard. Telling a joke is hard.
Yeah, and it takes training. Actually, I have a brother who's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
So I've seen him work, and the amount of time he spends on writing one joke that takes him 30 seconds to deliver is substantial, right? So there's a lot of time to write, takes a lot of time to write, and then it's a timing timing and energy and feeling the room and all that stuff that comes around that is so difficult.
Right. His facial expression, when he does it, how he builds it up.
And when he learns how to do it the first time, the second time, the third time, so once he delivers it the 100th time, it feels so natural. It feels like he just came up with the idea. The joke just came. But
that's it. I'm a huge comedy fan, and if you listen to the comedians, they produce 1 hour of comedy a year.
Yeah, that's how hard it is. Yeah.
And these aren't amateur comedians. These are
exactly.
These are the top.
Yeah.
The Chris Rocks.
That is very fascinating information that you might not really think about when you look at comedy.
You know, what is comedy but professional communication?
Yeah, for sure.
To elicit laughter.
Yep.
And what is sales? It's professional communication with the production of a decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and consensus.
All of that. Right. Yeah. Because, you know, in the complex sale, you got to convince many different people, not just that one person.
Yeah, that's when it gets really exciting.
Yeah. And you touched on the key problem is if you stick with that one person who is convinced and your advocate, you're relying on them to sell within that company.
Right. Yeah. That's a Russian roulette right there.
So what else is killing deals?
Yeah, I write about assumptions in the book. So we've touched on a few that we sort of believe that salespeople are somehow born. It's a born trait. I think a lot of people assume that or have that belief that either you're a salesperson or you're not. I don't believe that to be true. And if you hold that as a true assumption, which I did actually when I made all my mistakes back in the days, I thought if you were born a salesperson and you had a successful track record, then you would be selling successfully from my company. So that kind of assumption is dangerous. The second one is the discipline one, which we sort of touched upon with the checklists thing. For some reason, we believe if we give a salesperson a target, a quota that we set without their involvement even, they will somehow go like a heat-seeking missile, go achieve that target without us even giving them the right resources, training, guidance, coaching, etc. So I think this belief that salespeople are also disciplined by nature is killing a lot of deals.
Right, because I see a lot of reactivity versus proactivity.
Yeah, for sure. And what is selling? And sales enablement has been a big topic lately, and there's always an interesting discussion to be had about what that even
means,
and what it contains. And so a lot of reactivity. And in these times when we have a crisis, I think it's a good time in a sense to sort of slow down to then speed up once we get back to normality, because a lot of people are they're just looking to make the number. So it's very quarterly driven, make the number, do more faster. But we have to really come down, slow down, have a strategy, understand the clients, design a process that's then aligned with the buyer and the strategy, etc., etc. So it's a good time in a sense, I think, to get one's ducks in a row when we're in a crisis like this.
And how would you design like the ideal salesperson? What do you look for? What skills would you develop?
Yes, it all comes down to your buyer, right? How complex is the decision for them? So I think that's where it all has to start. And we're selling a CRM / sales enablement technology, so it's a fairly complex deal. Number of people involved, a lot of sunk cost. So a salesperson in our environment needs to be pretty consultative, a bit, to use this term, challenger, in the way that you have to sort of maybe provide them with some new insights that the tools you bought 10 years ago might not be the right tools today.
Right.
So, and you have to be comfortable with having that type of dialogue. So, but collaboration, it's all about facilitating or helping someone come to a decision, as you hinted to earlier. So you have to be a very good communicator. I think you need a lot of empathy, especially in these times, to understand the customers. What are they trying to accomplish? What could they accomplish? Because sometimes they don't even know, right? how well they could be doing with your help.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I obviously see a lot of people not understanding how companies buy.
Yeah. And companies don't even know that themselves.
Of course not. Right?
So
Do you know how to
yeah,
buy a house? I don't know how to buy a house. Right?
you don't buy it often, right?
Right.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. When I did buy a house, I didn't know the steps. I didn't know the process. We did it without a realtor. And the guy
Yeah.
who sold me the house was a builder. Uh, so he kind of knew.
Yeah.
But it is this process.
Hmm.
But everybody thinks they know until they don't.
Yeah, and it's also the house example is interesting, because what if you have kids? The seller
Yes.
might not even consider them to be stakeholders, but they surely are. They
Yes.
will they will have inputs depending on their age, of course. But yeah, so really understanding everyone who will be involved, I think, is still the number one mistakes salespeople do. Not understanding how the buyer will make a decision, and not helping the guy, the buyer, understand it themselves.
Yeah.
Because unless it's something they buy often, they don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, taking an order is pretty simple, right?
Very simple. Yeah.
Creating an order is very complicated.
That's the fun part. Yeah.
Yeah. And people
Yeah.
think it's the norm that it gets bought. It's the norm that it gets stalled.
Exactly. Yeah, we all want to try to use a workaround first, right? If I have a house, maybe the easiest option would be to extend the house instead of buying a bigger house.
Yeah.
But that's probably not even in the mindset of the realtor or the person trying to sell you a new house,
Right.
unless they ask, why haven't you considered extending your house?
Yeah.
And you say, well, maybe
that.
I should. Or now we hate our house. I mean, the answer can be different. Or we want to get into another neighborhood.
Right.
So, but unless you ask, you won't know. And then you're going to be surprised when they say, well, we decided not to buy a house. We're just going to extend the existing one. We love it.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy, I didn't see that one coming. Well, you should have.
And when you see your clients' process, is it overly simplified?
I love the question. It's either or, I would say. It's
Too
either,
complicated or too simple?
yeah, a lot of people go overboard, and they just try to build the most perfect sales process ever. And they even have this idea that they want to have one process for everything, which is nuts, of course. But that goes back to the traditional CRMs who weren't really considering that there might be different ways of selling. So yeah, either too complex or too simplified. I would say it depends on what you're selling, of course, and how much they've thought about these things. I think going back to the assumptions, I think that a lot of people still have this idea that if you hire the right people, they should know what to do. They should just log what they've done, and we're going to check if they've done enough. I mean, a lot of people are still in that bucket.
That is, I think, killing sales.
It is.
That's my book.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
mean, it is.
I think what's happened in the last 10 years with the division of labor gone mad and assuming you can hire people with zero sales experience and give them KPIs.
Yeah. And automation tools to spam people to death.
Which has ruined email for the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's annoying, to say the least.
Right. No empathy. A lot of people who have never talked on the phone in their life, right? Because they've texted their whole life. They're money motivated, which is good, but told that it's just simply a numbers game.
Yeah.
Here's a script. It worked 20 years ago for me. It should work today.
Yeah.
And then all these.
No, I agree with you 100%. It's frustrating, and it's killing killing the reputation of sales. I think a lot of good things have happened over the last decade and so in sales, but this sort of brings us back to this poor cold calling era,
right?
Which is
because
new technology.
When you want to buy something, you probably have a circle of friends you might ask, right? A house, a car, a vacation. Where'd you go? I don't know. Word of mouth is how we're wired. Strangers we naturally do not trust, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think the reason why this is happening is there's so many Silicon Valley startups with too much money in the bank,
Yes.
and they have a new cool product that the whole world is the oyster. So
Yeah.
they're just going to go do a land grab. So for them, it might work. I mean, it takes them to a certain revenue number, which is their primary target, to get a higher valuation or to sell the company
To do it more.
and to do it even more. But I think the danger in that is when they start promoting these ideas and telling everyone else to do the same. Because if you're a B2B selling company and you're selling to, I don't know, 1,000 potential clients in the world, you would never want to take that approach. Even though I could argue you would never want to take the approach at all. But I think you have to really realize, who are we selling to? What's the buyer expecting? If you're selling something complex and on value, I would be very, very careful about that type of tactic.
Because I did mostly startups when I was a rep, and what we do have today is a lot of great data.
Yeah.
Because for most of my career, there was no data.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't even guess email addresses because they were all had numbers and crazy letters in them.
Yeah.
On purpose to mask that. And you could get the main phone number, but then you'd have to walk the tree trying to find the right people. Today, that's all visible, but nobody wants to talk to us. So it's this paradox.
Yeah.
Yet everyone still wants to connect with other people. Everybody still wants help.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting world we're living in, and I might sound too negative now, especially as a tech vendor, but it's like everything, right? If you give a fool a tool, he's still a fool.
Dangerous.
So you can do a lot of good things with technology, but you can also do a lot of dangerous things and bad things with technology. So it's how you use it is probably the main thing.
And what do you hope people will get out of the book?
Yeah, hopefully they will get some aha moments, like, oh yeah, that's true. Maybe people aren't born. Maybe I shouldn't assume that everyone is disciplined, and maybe I shouldn't assume that they know what to do and should just log what they've done. And to get this, sit down and just think, how are we selling? I mean, that's what I really want people to start thinking about. What is our way of selling? Because I truly believe that's what's going to differentiate you in the market, the way you sell. Because product, services, they all look the same to buyers online. So how you engage buyers is really what's going to make a difference. So that's what I want people to start thinking about.
And what do you think of the critical selling skills?
Well, it's hard to give a simple response. It goes back to the type of selling, right? And if it's complex or if it's more transactional.
Let's say complex.
But in the complex sale, I would say it's really having this understanding of the buyer's world. So you need to be business savvy. You need to be able to understand how to get them to understand how they buy. You need to be able to speak the language of money. You need to be able to coordinate a lot of different people and be a good communicator and get people to see a vision that they want to get to work towards, and you can be a part of it. I mean, you can help them get there. So I'm not sure if that's a response to the question.
Yeah, no, that's good because because there's a lot of people that are good talkers, not good listeners, not good question askers.
Yeah, that's of course a super important point. You have to listen, not listen to know to find a slot to speak, which is very common. Yeah.
Or even worse, being voice activated, where they just talk over the other person.
Yeah, and I mentioned slow down to speed up. I think that goes for the sales cycle and the salesperson as well. Don't, just because you hear a buying signal, a trigger, don't jump to presentation. Slow down, drill deeper, understand, ask questions, and because if you do things right, they're going to ask to buy. I mean, that's good selling to me.
Right. It's
a
natural outcome.
It's a natural outcome of the process if you do it right.
Yeah.
So
and also to lead them through that decision-making process.
Yeah.
Because I kind of have a scale of going from unaware to aware of the problem, curious about the problem, build interest in the problem, and then to have urgency and action to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Agreed.
And it's really hard to keep that gait moving because it tends to slow down as the sales process goes on.
Look, we're having so much fun. My screen does that.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But so what's next for you?
Yeah. So the big thing for me, of course, is the launch of the book on Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun. I'm the head of a software company, so of course we are up to a lot of good stuff. We're working on a account growth module, which is sort of our next big launch. I think a lot of people are spending too little time actually growing their existing client relationships. So that's our next sort of focus area. We continue to grow through partners, so that's how we work. So we engage a lot of sales trainers to help elevate the sales profession together. So
cool.
That's what we're up to.
And where can they get the book?
So it's going to be on Amazon on Tuesday, so March 31st, paperback or Kindle. Yeah.
Excellent. And where can they follow you?
Find me on LinkedIn, George Bronton. And actually, the book has a pretty cool link, URL. It's stop.killing.deals. So you can download the first chapter there and some other resources that I've added there for the book.
There's going to be less and less deals, unfortunately. You can get more opportunities if you know what to do. The old tactics aren't working. Cold calling, okay. It's one tool. Email, yeah, it's another tool. Online digital, yet another tool. But we're still selling to people. And I haven't met a person yet that doesn't want to talk about themselves. So why don't we start there? Start the conversation, get the meeting. That's one course. It's a game changer. The people who have taken it and applied it have done really well. Taken it from 5, 10, 20% response rate to 80% in a very quick manner with little to no research beforehand. Outsourcing it to a virtual assistant for $5 an hour. We got to become creative. We got to use our resources. And this all starts with developing our skills. Any downtime you have should be applying your skills to become better. Go to b2brevenue.com right now. Check the courses out. You can schedule a 15-minute call with me. That's the way to do it. Don't send me email or in-mail me on LinkedIn. It's really hard to keep up with that stuff. That's the way. You get right on my calendar. You can pick a time that works. No back and forth. You tell me what you're doing now. How's it working? I tell you how it's different. See if it's a match. You decide. No pressure at all. The other course really fits into the topic we talked about today. Closing the complex sale. This is what we're in the business of. We have to become a student of it. It's been my passion for the last 30 years. And, I've written books on it. I'm teaching courses on it. It is a skill. It's not just knowledge. It's a skill that you have to develop year after year to become better and better at it. The same mistakes will happen over and over again. So check out that course as well. That's how to close the big deals, the deals you really want, the deals that will be game-changing for you, career-changing for you. And why not become better at it now when you have the time instead of just waiting until it's too late, waiting till you're too busy. Also at b2brevenue.com. Hey, also, if you see me on LinkedIn, could you give me a little like, a little comment, a little share? I'd appreciate that. Tell a friend about the podcast. That's helpful. I really appreciate that. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm running out of connections, so if you connect with me, make sure you tell me you're listening to the podcast. Otherwise, you'll have to wait till I clean out the connections from all the people that I should never have been connected to in the beginning. That's it. Check out the other couple podcasts, Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers, and the B2B Revenue Leadership Show. Also, I've got a YouTube channel where all of these are recorded in video. Check it out there. We'll see you next time.